Part the third. That's right. We're back with letters to Agnese, and I'm here with letter number 3. We're going to take it apart bit by bit after we read through it and get sort of a snapshot of what my persona may have had if a grandmother from Florence had written her a letter about her first pregnancy. In our previous films, we talked about other letters her grandmother would have sent her, the importance of a breve to pregnant women. That was like a religious either packet of things or writings to be laid upon the stomach, the importance of art and how art actually was an essential of daily life and tied into childbirth and families in Italy of the time, where my persona would have grown up, and more. All right, let's get started in letter 3. Letter the third. 2nd September, 1562. Most excellent Agnese, it warms my heart to hear that God has kept you happy and your child is quickened in your womb. Soon enough you will hold your first child. May many more follow with ease. I write to you with comfort on my mind. I have secured poppy for your pain at birth, and coriander to speed the child into your arms when your time has come. Wrapped with these in linen for the swaddling is a breve. The words of St. Margaret will guide you and protect you in your hour of need, even as they guided her safe from the belly of the dragon. Remember to secure the pouch about your waist and leave it sewn shut. Indeed, holding it close even now could only prevent sorrow from finding you. It is with relief that I also read you have secured a midwife. A midwife with experience with herbals, as well as the knowledge of those before us, is indeed a treasure. You wrote to me that the majolica plate that I sent you had arrived with some small damage, but the plaster head of your mother was thankfully well wrapped. Knowing your love of the majolica, I will be sending you a set for your meal after the birth. I am certain your husband will bestow many gifts upon you on the joyous day, but none will be like those you would have had should you had married and stayed close to me. I pray God continues to keep you safe, my beloved grandchild. Your grandmother, Leonarda. All right, let's take this letter apart, talk about some of the sources that I used to write it, and talk about the meanings that are deeper. All right. So, phrasing and the tone in this letter, once again, is very similar to that Maria de Medici would have used at the time to her family, as well as other women of the time would have used when speaking to their family. So that's something we want to keep in mind, that they would have been this frank with their family, discussing something such as childbirth. Let's talk about some of the other footnotes here. Additionally, we can talk about how when she secures poppy for her granddaughter. So the poppy is secured, and what the poppy is going to do is ease the pain. And so we did a work into herbals of the time because I wanted to see what medications were available. Herbals were circulated pretty well throughout Europe at this point in time, so finding the documentation wasn't hard, as well as coriander seeds to speed labor and delivery. So these were two things that would have been used for a pregnant woman. She also talks about St. Margaret escaping the belly of a dragon. So this is a story behind the St. Margaret, that she escaped the belly of a dragon, and sometimes escaping the belly or something in peril would be something women would look to. So St. Margaret was that patron saint to what would be a religious woman of the day, which most were, because it was part of the culture. And the breve, she talks about being a pouch. Now, a breve can be a pouch of religious goods with a prayer inside of it, or it could have been written along a belt. The structure of these breve were very different time to time. There was a time period where the church actively sought to discourage their use, as the fact they were kind of a talisman. But then as time went on, they kind of sort of had other things to focus on than what a woman in labor was using. And frankly, because childbirth was so perilous, it was more of something that was debated among monks and priests, as opposed to something they went place to place saying, no, you can't use a breve. So another thing that she talks about in this is a midwife, and a good experienced midwife with herbals, as well as a knowledge of those before us, is a treasure. There were books on midwifery at the time. One could train to be a midwife. In some of the letters I have read, Maria de Medici talks about how to find a good wet nurse. Mentions midwifery. So finding a good midwife with a good reputation for a positive outcome would be something that your grandmother definitely would tell you at that point in time. Additionally, we talk about the Majolica. So, one interesting thing I found out in this research was the Majolica plates. You go to a Museum of Fine Arts in Boston, or you go to the Met, and you see these plates, and they often have like Maria and the baby Jesus, or they have scenes of lambs or pastures. So, in delving deeper, those patterns were often made of these platters for after the woman gave birth, she would be gifted this platter, sometimes before birth. And the meal that she ate after surviving labor and delivery would be given to her in Florence on this beautiful majolica. And it was shipped to other places in Europe. So that first meal given after labor and delivery, after she's a little bit cleaned up, she's through labor, she's exhausted, to sort of replenish the body, a very rich and full meal would have been served on plates like this to sort of celebrate not only the arrival of the baby, but the survival of the mother. It would also be to entice her to eat. If she's had blood loss or she is starting to become ill, you really wanted her to eat that first meal. And give her a chance to have her milk come in and to survive this ordeal. So we talk about the plate and the gifts that she would have given. It's also thinking about, hey, you're going to survive this because you're going to need a plate to put your meal on. And in the end, Leonardo talks about, I wish you had married closer to me. The truth of the matter is her grandmother, Leonardo, would have had no say, any more than Agnese would have, about who she married or where she went. Agnese's, unfortunately at the time, value to her father would have been who she could marry, what alliances she could make, who could pay certain amounts to in dowry, or rather, dowry she could offer them. Flip those. So she was a possession, unfortunately, at the time. And so her grandmother can say, I wish you had been near me, and she can feel that way, and they can feel that way for each other, but neither would have had a say in this. Nor would Leonardo have been able to say, I want to go up to France and see the birth of this baby. That was not something that any of them really had access to. All right, that's our third letter. There will be more letters forthcoming. Keep in mind that each letter takes a sizable amount of research because every line, every syllable is carefully thought out to make sure it accurately reflects the events that my persona would have been seeing or her grandmother would have been writing about. Thank you.